Good morning, it's James here. I've got my coffee and it's Sunday morning. So I thought for Sunday morning we'd do something simple. Not everybody wants to do a complicated, order things from AliExpress, solder things together. So we're gonna have a simple Sunday. If you just wanna run down and grab something simple like this Wiz light globe, we're gonna install 2 of these today and we're gonna set it up with Home Assistant. So it's something that anyone can give it a go and try it out and try out home automation for themselves. Now you can use these on their own, obviously, with the app, and I'm also going to show you how to connect these via local UDP to Home Assistant, and that's not too difficult to do. And then we're going to run through a couple of automations that we could do with these lamps with Home Assistant. Now these lamps come in 3 different shapes. They're a filament style lamp. So I've just ordered the standard shape bulb, which is going to suit me. It also comes in an elongated one and a larger round one, and they're all the same price, $25. And my local shop down here at Bunnings had them all in stock. So for $25, it's a pretty cool, not too expensive project to do on a Sunday, nice and simple. So we'll jump into it now, and I'm going to install some pendant lights to put them in and then set them all up. Let's get started. Okay, we've got a Sunday afternoon electrical installation, something nice and easy. We have got some pendant lights that are going to be bedside table lights, so they'll just hang over the table, so I don't have to worry about knocking them over. And I've got my laser here, my plumb bob laser. So basically we can just line it up. Very handy, I use this all the time. One of my best tools I've got, I reckon. And just puts a little mark on the ceiling where we're going to hang the light. So we just have to open this base up and we'll mount that there with some plasterboard screws. And connect it up to an active connection. And then we'll be able to put some LifeX globes or some Wiz globes in here, so we can connect them up to control them. All right, I'll get this done, and once they're up and running, we'll see how we're going to control them. I've got my single-use dust catcher ready, and I'm going to be securing the lights with these hollow wall anchors. There's a tool you can get to fit them, or you can just use a screwdriver bit, and you can fit them that way. So I'm just going to drill the holes for it now. So I've mounted the bracket that way so that the screws on the sides are as least obvious as possible. As you see that one over there. So when you're standing here, the screws are mostly concealed because there's one around the back just there, and there's one around the back just there. So you can't conceal it from every angle, but you try and make it so that it looks best from the most common angle that you're going to be standing looking at it from. And we've worked out the height that we want it to be above the bedside table. So we'll make the other one the same height. And if we have a look at this connection block here, sometimes there's a connector in here where you do a termination, you bring the building wire out of here. But what I am going to do is bring this wire up into the roof and connect it in a junction box. It's just the active and neutral wire, and it's double insulated. If you did do a junction in here, it would need to have like an earth connection to earth this metal enclosure, or the junction would need to be double insulated. So we'd have to have 2 layers of insulation. So it's going to be easier for me just to pull this up into the roof and connect it to building wire with inside a junction box. And it's also easier to adjust the height too, because you can just loosen it and push it up into the roof. It's not a very heavy light fitting, so it's got hardly any weight hanging on it, so that will work just okay, just fine. Also with these clear wires, sometimes they will have like a little thread in them, like a red or a brown thread and a blue in the neutral, to show which one's active and which one's neutral. Sometimes it'll be a little white mark, which is really hard to see. I think this one doesn't actually have that in it. So I'm going to check which one is active, and I'm going to strip that so that I have the active and neutral connected the right way around. Now, it will work either way, but I'll show you the other end. With an Edison screw lamp, you want to have the bottom pin the active and the side pin the neutral, because if you touch a neutral, it's connected to earth and there's no mains potential. But if you have it switched around the other way, that means the side edge of the lamp can be active as you're removing the lamp, and so it's a hazard. You shouldn't really have the lamp on when you're removing it, but it's just a good practice to make the bottom pin active and the side neutral. So we've got both lights up. Now we just got to go up on the roof and connect up the top part. You'll notice that with these pendants, they have a bit of a curve in the wire. There is nothing you can do about that. It's just the way they come and the way they are. And they will eventually, over time, the weight of the hanging lights will straighten them out and they'll sort of become smooth and straight. Now, if you have a light that's not symmetrical like this, that has a face, the way that it has to face, then you'll find that as it straightens out, the light will actually sort of twist around and you'll have to keep adjusting its position. But that's just what these cords do. So we've connected our light up, and we've got it just coming up just over here to a junction box, and we've clipped our cable over to the other one, which is over in that far corner. Now this cable, where it's run is important. There's different great ways you can run a cable. So this is unenclosed in air. This one, these ones down here, anything within 90 mil of the ceiling is against a timber beam is classified as partially enclosed in insulation, because it has insulation that comes up against it when the insulation comes back in, and that means it can carry less current and the circuit breaker has to be appropriately sized. And then the last rating is if something is entirely enclosed in insulation, which you wouldn't normally see in a house with bats because you can't really do that. But blow-in or loose fill insulation, you can have a cable that's entirely enclosed, and it's not something you really want to happen because it can overheat. And I have seen cables that run through insulation for a period of time to actually overheat and sort of go black and crispy. So it's good to make sure that the circuit breakers and cables are all appropriately rated for where they're located, which obviously this is all perfectly fine. Okay, so now our bedside lamps are installed and are in place. Everything looks pretty good. And I'm just going to pop some of these globes in it. So I just got it from Bunnings, and they're our Wiz globes. So we're going to put them in one at a time. I believe to pair it, you have to activate it, turn it off and on 3 times, and we'll go into pairing mode, and we'll connect it to the Wiz app, and then we'll actually be able to connect it to Home Assistant after we've connected it to the Wiz app. Home Assistant uses local UDP to control these lights. So let's do that now. So turning it off and on 3 times puts it into pairing mode, like so. Now we just got to grab the app and connect it up. Okay, so I'll just do a quick run through on my third lamp, which I'm putting somewhere else, just so you can fully get how to set them up. It's quite straightforward. You just open the Wiz connected app, which is this one just here. And I've got a few lamps already inside my house. So set up a room name that you want to put the lamps into. So I'll just add another room here. And I'm going to have a third bedroom set up in here. So I'll save that room. And now we can just add another device to that room. So click on add, and we're going to add a light. Now I've got, make sure your phone is connected to the network you want it connected to. So I've got it lighting automation, and then I'll just enter in my password just here. Okay, I've entered my password in, press continue. Now you have 2 options here, and you'll probably find that manual pairing is the easiest because most phones will just automatically connect to 5 gigahertz networks, and it's not too hard to do. You just simply have to turn the light on and then turn it off and on 3 times, and then the light will go into a blue pulsing mode, and that means it's ready to pair. So now that you've done that, you can press manual pairing, and it has the instructions just there. You might have to try it a few times. I had to try it a couple of times to get it to work, but it didn't take too long. Press next. So now we just have to go back out to our settings and connect to the network that the globe creates in network settings. Okay, so I'm just in Wi-Fi settings, and if you wait a minute or 2, it should come up with the network that the lamp is creating. So there it is just there. We'll select that network, and then we'll go back to the Wiz app. Now we've connected to it. So we're back in the Wiz app, and we can continue the setup. So that's going to connect your new lamp into the app. So you'll be able to control it from there, and just select join, and the light is now connected. And it just takes a little bit longer for it to connect up to the Wi-Fi network, which is done now. So now we can control our lamp. So I've got the lamp here that I'm setting up and it's working no problem. Okay, so I'm just logged into my Unify router, and if you don't have this, you might have a different brand or different type. But basically what we need to do now is find the IP address for the lamp we've just connected to our network, so that we can use it in the setup in Home Assistant. Now you will need to set the lamps up one at a time and get the IP addresses one at a time. But basically you just need to come into your router and find the latest lamp that you've just set up. So for me it's just here in clients, and I'll come down to the bottom, and this is the one I've just set up, and it will have a name like Wiz with a MAC address following it. Now I can see here that its IP address is just here on my network. So I'm going to have to write that IP address down so I can set it up in the Home Assistant YAML file. So record that address, and you can see the other two lamps that I've already set up just here. It's only just been connected for a few minutes, 8 minutes. So that's one way that you can use to tell the new device. And you can also use a network utility like Fing. So Fing will help you to find the IP address of your new device, and you can sort of search for it by the time that it's been spent connected to the network, because obviously you've only just connected it. So that's one little tip, just to try and find the new thing if you can't recognize it by the name that your router shows. But it'll be a name something like this here. So I'm just going to come in, and this is something you will need to do, otherwise if the address changes then it will stop working in Home Assistant. So once again, each router is different, unfortunately, but in Unify you can just come into Networks, come down to the Network tab and use Fixed IP Address, or a IP reservation as well, some routers call it. So we'll activate that, and I'm just going to fix it to this address so that it doesn't change. So I'll just save that there. So now that address will be locked in, and that light will stay on that IP address, which is what I want. And most routers will allow that in some way, but obviously you have to check the documentation for each router that you might have. So we've saved that. We've fixed our IP address at 167. Now we'll jump across into Home Assistant. Okay, I've got a pretty standard installation of Home Assistant here. It's just pretty fresh. There's nothing much in it. And I've got the Home Assistant Community Store in here, and you can use it to install this integration. It's a third-party integration, so it's not one of the core integrations. And it's from this place here. So this is the GitHub site where you'll find information about the integration that we're going to use. And it does work with these Wiz Filament bulbs, as you see just there. So there's some information here about how it works and how to set it up. So you can actually use this method here, add the files to the custom components directory, and use a few commands in the terminal. But we're going to install it through the Home Assistant Community Store installed. So we'll just come into here and click on Integrations, and we can search for Wiz lights, and this has only just recently been added into here. So if we want to install it, all we have to do is click Install. Now that's going to copy the files into this directory on our Home Assistant installation, and remember that you need to restart afterwards for the integration to be applied. So we'll just click Install now. Okay, now we need to restart our Home Assistant. So we'll come into Configuration, and we'll come down to Server Controls, and we'll do a restart. Okay, so to set it up, we need to have a file editor installed. There's obviously more than one way to do that, but we can just come into Supervisor, and you probably have this already installed. Go to Add-on Store, and it's one of the official add-ons. We can just install the file editor. So we'll just click Install if you don't already have the file editor installed. That way we'll be able to edit our YAML file. So we can click Show in the sidebar. Our file editor is just there, and if we open that up, we'll start it. Okay, and now we can open it up. So to find our YAML file, we'll just come to the folder just here, and we'll run down to configuration.yaml, and we've got our YAML file just here. Now we can write it directly into this file, and it goes under lights. If you come back to here, the GitHub side will actually tell you what you need to write, and it goes in the light folder. So basically you could just copy and paste this straight in to there. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to create a folder like these ones here. So we'll go into the, we'll have to create an actual light folder. If you don't already have one, you may have one already on your system. So if you don't have one, we will make a new one. So do new file, and we're going to call it light.yaml. And then we'll do the same as what we've got just here. Include light.yaml. And that means we can take this stuff here. So we'll save that. That's showing an error because I've done a typo. Okay. There we go. So we'll save that. So it's showing it as correct. And then we'll open up the light.yaml file and we'll paste it straight in here. And because it's the light.yaml file, we don't actually have to have light at the top. And we'll just do a third one there. Okay, so we'll leave that the same, platform with lights. We're going to give our devices a name. So and an IP address. So that's the IP address that we got from our router, or from Fing. You can use Fing as well to find the IP addresses, but you will need to make sure that you make it a static IP or give it a static IP reservation. And then do the same for each lamp. We've got our IP addresses and the names that will that our lamps will be called, and that will become the entity for the lamp. And that is all completed. So we'll just save that, and then we'll do a restart. We can actually do the restart from here if we come up to the cog and do restart Home Assistant. Now that will create 3 entities within Home Assistant that we'll be able to use to control our lamps. So that's automatically detected that those lamps just there. And we'll wait, give it a minute, and they'll become active. So that's working fine at the moment. So we've got our guest lamp. I've got it sitting next to me here just to try it out. And so I've just turned it off there and turn it on. And because it's a dimmable lamp, if we click on it, we'll be able to change the brightness and the color temperature. And that lamp is right next to me, and that is doing exactly as it should. We can also set the effects. There's different effects just here, and that changes the lamp. Okay, now we've got our lamp set up in Home Assistant just here. We're going to have a look at how we can make a little simple automation for a wake up on Monday to Friday, but not Saturday and Sunday at 6:30 with our guest room lamp. Now we can try out service calls using the developer tools. So we can come into developer tools down here, and we can go to services, and we can try out how a service will work on a certain entity. So we can do some testing. So we're going to quickly have a look at this light. So we're going to use the light turn on service, and we're going to select our guest room light. And this is just for testing, and we can see that there's some options that we have here that we can use. and not all of these options will apply, but we can use brightness and we can use effect. So we're going to try out the effect. So we'll just add effect here. And if we come back and look at our lamp here, we can see that if we turn it on, we have some effects that we can choose from that we can set using that service. Now we're going to use the wake up effect as our alarm light. So we have to type it exactly the same with the capitals and the spaces. So we'll go back to we'll turn this off, and we'll go back to our service here, and we're going to type wake up. Now if we call this service, it'll turn on our lamp in the wake up effect. So if we come and look back here, see it set it to wake up. So we can also change the color temperature and the brightness in a similar way, simply by adding brightness, but we can't use it brightness at the same time as the wake up effect. So we can set it to the maximum, which is 255, and call that. So if we turn that off and we call the brightness command, that will turn our light on to full brightness. So that's a simple way how we can try out services, and now we're going to use that service in an automation. So we're going to jump to the automation section, which is in configuration down here. And we're going to come to automations, and we'll do create new with the plus button down here in the corner. We'll skip this part here, and we're going to call it wake up alarm. You can enter some more information about what it is. There's different modes. We're going to use a single mode, and the trigger is what starts the automation. So we're going to use the time to start this automation, and we want it to start at 6 o'clock in the morning. So 6:30 in the morning. Now if we come down, we want to set a condition, so we're going to add some conditions here, and we're going to do a not condition because we don't want it to come on Saturdays and Sundays. At the moment, it will come on every day at 6:30 with this trigger. So we're going to have a not, and we're going to go to time, and we can't choose days here. We can only choose times. But if we go to here, to the three little dots, we can go into YAML mode, and we can actually type in some extra conditions here. Now, if you have a look at the Home Assistant website, it's got a section here and all the conditions that we can add and use in automations. And we're actually going to use the weekday condition, which is this one just here. And we're going to specify 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, that we do not want the light to come on. So we'll come back to here, and all we need to do is add weekday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if we have a look at the documentation, that's how we enter it in, just like that. And they're the days that we can choose from. So now we've entered that. We have our alarm that will go off at 6:30, but not on Saturday and Sunday. And what action do we want it to take? Well, we're gonna call a service, and that service is light turn on. And just like we were using in the developer tools, we'll try the services to turn our light on. We can do the same. So we're going to select our guest room lamp, and we can enter some additional information just down here in service data. So if we can't remember, we can come back over here and we can see the choices we have, and we're going to enter the wake up effect. So we'll come back over to automations, and we're going to type effect, and remember to use the same case and spaces, and we have wake up. So now if we save that, we have our automation. Every morning at 6:30 during the weekdays, but not on Saturday and Sunday, our lamp will come on and it will be in wake up mode, which will slowly get brighter and brighter until it gets to full brightness. So that's a simple automation. And if we come back out, we see that our automation is here. If we want to disable it for some reason, we want to sleep in on Friday, we can simply go like this and it will not start. And then we can turn it back on again if we want it to be reactivated. So that's a simple automation that we can use to turn on our guest room lamp. I hope this has been helpful for you. Hope you've been able to have a go at playing with some simple automations and setting up your Wiz lights in home assistant. If you want to see more videos about home automation and home assistant in particular, please subscribe for more. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up. I'll catch you next time. Bye.